Today I'm talking about the RAS, or the reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system is a net-like structure of cells at the base of our brain and our brainstem. And what it does is it opens and closes based upon our perception of reality, our culture, our experience, and it is kind of the psychological representation of faith. For example, one of the things that the reticular activating system does is it screens perception and helps us see the world the way we believe it is. So, for example, there is a young couple that moves into a condominium alongside the freeway, and the only thing that's separating them from the noise of the traffic is a thin wooden fence. So for 2 weeks or so, they have a very difficult time sleeping because of the buses and the trucks as they roar up and down the road. After they've been married about 1.5 years, they bring home their new baby. And they bring the baby home, put the baby in the crib, and the buses and the trucks are still going up and down the highway, but they don't hear them anymore because that reticular activating system screens out everything that is not pertinent to our survival. But something happens in the middle of the night, the baby goes, The mom jumps up out of the bed, and in the midst of the noise of the traffic, which she has screened out, she handles this baby because this is something that's very important to her. But what does Dad do? Well, Dad probably doesn't even get out of bed because he's not accepted responsibility for that child. But if he did, he would hear that during the night. It used to be really interesting to me that as a parent, my children, or one of my children, could be standing on their winter coat right in the middle of the front room, and I'd say, pick up the coat, and they would say, what coat? Now, I was talking a little bit about culture. I grew up down in southeastern Utah, and my father was the Dodge dealer. I formed a perception that really changed the way that I looked at the world. And I believed that in order to be a good person, you had to drive a Dodge. So when my bishop showed up driving a Mercury, I have a very difficult time trusting him. Now, there's all kinds of examples of how this reticular activating system works. And again, it puts us in a perspective, and based upon how we choose to see reality, the perspective is really something that colors the way we look at all things. Now, for example, if you take this picture here, what is it that you see? Now, most people who look at it will say they see a duck or a bird of some kind. And the reason that we see a duck or a bird is because when we look at something on a sheet of paper, we look at it from left to right, like we read. But if you could take a minute and look at it from another perspective, let's say that you look at it from right to left. So you make that a nose. Of course, that's an eye, and those become ears. Can you see a rabbit? And the idea being that when we are willing to look at something from a whole different point of view, the world shows up very differently. So the key to this whole message is the recognition that we do not see the world the way it is. We see the world the way we are. For example, you think about somebody that you let's say have some strong emotions about. Let's say you're in love. When you're in love, you look at this person and you screen out all the negative information or characteristics about this person. You think about somebody that you hate. When you hate somebody, you screen out all of the positive characteristics. So the world then is really dependent upon our emotion or how we choose to look at it. And this is a powerful concept as it relates to therapy, as it relates to our perception of the world. And we could go on and talk about this concept or this idea, but I think basically we've got what we need. Thanks for coming.